turn the wrong corner and you will die.
I was not going to be a drug dealer. I'm here to play basketball.
I never questioned Ron's ability. Every single day I questioned where he was mentally.
He had demons. He had a disease he couldn't handle.
I figured out that I need help.
Who comes back from what we dismiss as crazy and rescues himself?
Knicks family, what's poppin'? It's your boy. And just finished watching Quiet Storm, the Ron Artest story. And let me tell you, it was compelling. It was obviously it spread a message about mental illness, but it dipped into things that go a lot deeper than mental illness. You know, so it was very, very good. If you didn't get a chance to watch it, please make sure you get a chance to watch it. You can go back, watch it on Showtime if you have Showtime. I'm pretty sure you'll be able to see it other places at some point. But I got Viv in the chat. Let's talk about Quiet Storm. Nothing but Knicks, baby. All right, let's get with it. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do me a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Ring the notification bell. You get a notification anytime that I go live. Drop a video. I'm going to keep you updated all summer long. But tonight it's kind of special. We're going to talk about Ron Artest, Metta World Peace. You know, they just he premiered his documentary on Showtime tonight. It was a 2-hour documentary, maybe a little bit shorter, maybe an hour and 50 minutes, something like that. It was very, very good. Very good. And we're going to talk about this right now. Me and Viv, we're going to get down. We got some other people joining the video chat. So I'm pretty sure we're going to have some very good and compelling conversations tonight about Ron Artest. More than just Ron Artest, about Ron Artest, New York City basketball. We'll get a chance to talk about society and how it leads to mental illness. We'll be able to talk about mental illness, how it impacts a person in their life, and how mental illness impacts Black America. I think that's an important issue to discuss. So we're going to get into it, man, and talk about the documentary a little bit. Viv, I know you said you watched the documentary. We got Big Freezy in the chat. Freeze, did you get a chance to watch the documentary tonight?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you what I thought about it first, and then I want to get see what you guys feel about it. First of all, I really do like the fact that Ron Artest is not afraid to face and admit to the public, that he has a mental illness. That's important, especially for Black men, Black women, Black families in America. Not to say that it's not important for any other race, but there's a specific reason why I believe, and Freezy, I think you probably would agree with me, that it's important for African Americans to, if they're dealing with a mental illness and they have dealt with a mental illness, to come out and admit to it and talk to other people about it, because in the Black community, dealing with a mental illness or admitting that you have a mental illness is a little bit taboo. So I really do like the fact that he came out with this documentary. But the documentary really does go back and delve into the conditions that, for a lot of African Americans that live in these conditions, lead to mental illnesses. We'll get into it a little bit deeper. I'm not going to say that these conditions lead to mental illnesses. They can lead to mental illnesses. They don't always lead to mental illnesses, because sometimes mental illnesses are hereditary, biological, and those type of things. But the way that the documentary went back, talked about the crack era, the crack epidemic, delved into a little bit of the violence that was around in Queensbridge, not just Queensbridge, but New York City, and not just New York City. Well, the documentary didn't go this deep, but not just New York City, in hoods all across America, especially at that time. It was a high time for it, you know. So it dipped into that a little bit, and it really did give you a perspective and help you understand what built Ron Artest, right, and what he was bringing into the NBA. Now, there are tons of players that grew up in these same type of conditions and brought it to the NBA. But obviously, Ron Artest has some other things that he was dealing with, hereditary type mental illnesses that, you know, he had to grapple with, and then try to handle being an NBA star, dealing with the criticism that comes with that, the pressure that comes with that, while dealing with a mental illness. You know, that's, I mean, so it was a great documentary. I think it was a really, really good documentary. Frazee, what do you think, man?
I agree with you, Sam. The documentary made you look at Ron Artest in a different light. Mm-hmm. Today, understanding what he went through back then, you know, was what was triggering his decision making. Kind of makes you feel sorry for the guy now that you know that he was actually dealing with a mental illness. We all knew Ron had something going on with him. We thought it was anger. We had no idea that it was a chemical imbalance that led to bipolar disorder and social anxiety, and the combination of the two having, you know, impacting how he played basketball and how he dealt with individuals. Because dealing with the individuals off the court with a social anxiety and with a bipolar disorder complicated a bunch of his relationships. And we know people that kind of behave that way, but don't necessarily want to speculate to why they don't handle relationships and decision making well. So I'm glad I saw it. Now I feel like I'm better equipped to handle others that I think maybe, though I'm not a doctor, but I could at least be more lenient and patient in relationships, understanding that it may be things leading to a person's decision-making process.
Yeah, definitely. Viv, what do you think, man?
No, I think both of you made excellent points. It's very compelling documentary. I knew about some of the things that Ron or Metta, whatever we want to call him, you know, dealt with, you know, over the course of his life. But just to see how it all kind of connected from the experiences that he specifically dealt with, you know, at home, you know, in the community, and how all of that really, you know, it carries on with you if it's not really properly addressed, but, you know, if it's not dealt with, if it's not discussed, you know, those things, you know, carry on with you. So we kind of saw that side of Ron, and we saw, you know, how what he dealt with in his childhood, it didn't, you know, it kind of impacted some of his relationships with players in the NBA, you know, why he didn't have such a great relationship with, you know, Jermaine O'Neal, for example, and why there was such a distance. And some of that was, you know, built off of how he grew up in that way. So, you know, I know last 10 years or so, he's been very open with discussing his ability to, you know, seek help and, you know, encouraging others to seek help. And it's very commendable and it's very laudable in that way. You know, to look at it from a basketball perspective, it's kind of crazy because they showed Elton Brand, Lamar Odom, and you know, they all grew up, they all went to AAU together, and it was funny because Elton Brand and Artest played together with the Bulls, and if they kept those two players together in Chicago, you know, who knows what would have happened from a basketball perspective. That's pretty amazing to see, and then to see Lamar and Artest reunite in LA and win a championship together, that's kind of like a surreal moment. If only all those three are together to win a championship, that would just be even more amazing. But that's kind of surreal. And then to really look at the big picture, almost, you know, everybody's wondering, oh, why didn't Ron Artest, you know, come to why didn't the Knicks draft Ron Artest? You know, looking from like a selfish standpoint, right? You know, when you look at the big picture, perhaps for Ron's sake, it's probably better that he was not in New York.
Right.
Because there's a lot of things that he probably would have never been able to properly, address and deal with. Just being, just sometimes, being close to home is not the best thing for someone like him.
Right.
And it may have potentially would have masked some things. I don't know if his temperament or personality. I don't think it would have. It would have been pretty volatile here. So, it sucks, but at the same time, it's better for him. And I think this documentary clearly shows and depicts, that, and just kind of brings everything into a full circle. The only person they missed is that they should have tried to tie in Nas with this, because I know Nas definitely has a lot of stories. With Ron, there's definitely a lot of stories.
Yeah, definitely there is. But they did tie in a lot of rappers. You had Fredo Starr, talked about seeing him on the basketball court. Havoc, Noriega, of course, Capone is his cousin, Mr. Cheeks.
Yeah.
Mr. Cheeks was in the documentary. And these guys really did have some inside stories just about seeing Ron Artest on the court, working with his father. 10 degrees outside, the only people on the court out there working, watching his father, play rough, be rough with him, knock him down, beat him up, and kind of build that tough character that everybody knows Ron Artest to have on the basketball court, being that relentless type of player.
Yeah, come to think of it, I think the other two people I just thought of right now, as we just mentioned this, is they should have had Roxanne Shante, because she used to babysit, I think, Ron Artest when he was growing up. So that would have been interesting to bring her bring up some stories and stuff. And then also, I guess they didn't interview his brother. I don't know what his brother's up to, Daniel Artest, but I remember seeing him around quite some when he was in New York for like a couple months. But that would have been an interesting one.
Yeah, I want to take a second. I want to take a quick second. Hopefully you guys will be able to hear it. If not, it'll be cool. But what I want to do is I want to listen to, for those who maybe did not see the documentary, you can just hear a quick interview from Ron Artest that he did with Ebony. And just can get a good idea, what the documentary was about. We're gonna continue to talk about the documentary. So I just want you to check this out. Hopefully you guys can hear this. You're still live, so I'm gonna go ahead and play this right now. And this is available on YouTube as well. But here's Ron Artest.
Documentary.
Absolutely. So the documentary is called Quiet Storm. It's a story about Ron Artest. I changed my name in 2011. And the story is about my early days in the league. And then actually it goes beyond my early days in the league, just growing up in Queens, Long Island City, Queensbridge, what got me started playing basketball. And it goes through the evolution of my career, starting out, getting drafted, then having situations that got me suspensions in the NBA and different things like that. I pretty much did the interview by just talking back and forth with the writers and directors. They had some on-camera shots. They went out and produced it amazingly. They went out and got interviews from Donnie Walsh, Jermaine O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, and they made the interview something where people could have a little bit more insight on my career, and not only my career, but other people who grew up like me.
Gotcha. Were you surprised by any of the things your teammates like Kobe Bryant or anybody else said about you in the documentary?
For one, I didn't want to see the doc until it comes out, May 31st. So I did see the trailer, and I did hear some things that Kobe said, and I don't know everybody that's in it, because I kind of wanted it to be a surprise to me also, because I'm excited about it. But a lot of the stories are very accurate. Everybody has different, experiences with me personally. Everybody's gonna have something different to say.
Okay, it's coming out during Mental Health Awareness Month. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey in mental health? When did you decide to start taking your mental health a little bit more seriously?
Mental health is very important because it helps provide, good mental health helps provide stability for your family, stability for, parenting and different things like that, which is at the core of our life. and which is at the core of mental health. Usually when households break up or when parents, get into any situations, they can't really, you're not really raising your child the right way. If you don't have two parents in the household, a kid is more susceptible to, in our neighborhoods, to commit crimes. If you commit crimes, then you lose in a week of school, 2 weeks, a year, get left back, and that just snowballs. Now you're going in the wrong direction. So at the core of my focus is family, parenting, and partnerships.
Gotcha. Was there a specific moment for you when you realized, like, hey, I might need to seek some professional help? Or was it just like, how did you come to the idea that you needed to seek professional assistance? Because you were like one of the first professional athletes to come out and speak out about seeking professional help.
Yeah, I think for me, I just wanted to be able to show people that can't really afford counseling because it's very expensive. So I was able to get parenting, marriage counseling, anger management counseling, parenting counseling actually. I was a young parent at 17 years old, but I still had kids, but I wasn't doing it the right way. I wasn't being a good parent. So I took all these classes and all these sessions. And for me to show people, it's okay. Back in 2010, when people wasn't really talking about those issues because the media back then was more critical of a celebrity or athlete to come out and say, hey, I need help, when that celebrity or athlete is just as human as anyone else. Nowadays, with social media, with the youth, with the whole new movement that's happening now, everybody's more understanding of someone and more willing, to help someone that's in need of anything that involves mental health.
Gotcha. You've spoken about your experiences with mental health as you played professional basketball. What advice would you offer to players like DeMar DeRozan and Kevin Love who have publicly spoken out about their experiences with battling depression?
Yeah, I think some advice I would give them is to continue to speak out and continue to empower other people with your message. What Kevin Love and DeMarcus did was they empowered someone to say, I'm vulnerable, I'm feeling a little weak, whatever the case may be, and it's okay to seek help. It's okay to ask a family member for some advice or to speak about your issues to a family member, a coach, a teammate, or even a therapist. So those guys are champions in my eyes for that. And obviously Kevin Love, he won a championship, with the Cavs, so he's a double champion.
Gotcha. In the Black community, prior to recent years, there's been a stigma against seeking professional help. Mm-hmm. Have you noticed the change?
I have. I noticed that people are more willing to go out on TV and say, I need a therapist, I need help, I need counseling. You're hearing it from celebrities, actors, athletes, and now the regular, everyday worker that's not on television, you would even hear people like that saying, hey, I got a therapist. It's great. And now you're realizing how many people actually have therapists. So many people. I think that economy is booming. It's a time to be a social worker. And also being a social worker is very important because we actually do need more social workers. And we need more funding for social workers, therapists. We need more funding for people that can't afford those sessions because they're super expensive. There's a school called the Chicago School of Psychology, and they provide sessions for $15 an hour. So they take the students that they're teaching, and after they go through a course, those students provide counseling sessions, which is really cool. And so on both sides, I think we need funding for people that can't afford the classes. And we just need to put social workers or therapists in schools. We need to have them in public places. I think law enforcement should be trained psychologists or have some type of social working skills to be able to communicate with the public and to be able to express themselves. maybe they're going through some stressful situation. As we know, being an officer, being a teacher, being a fireman is not paying you hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, on average. So, that's all the aspects that's important to me with mental health and making sure it's available for everyone.
And I think that's a great message by Ron right there. And one of the things that he mentioned in that little short clip there probably wasn't as short as probably could have been a little bit shorter. But anyway, one of the things that he mentioned was, well, I'm saying a little bit shorter for our purposes, not for what they did. I think it was great for what they did. But one of the things that he did mention is the need for more counselors, social workers, and stuff like that. And I just want to go, talking about the documentary, I want to just go back a little bit and, just talk about it. He talked about how he got started playing, right? And it's in the documentary, right? He explained in the documentary how, there was domestic violence in the household between him and his mother, them both hitting each other. When the cops would come, they'd both explain their side of the story, and then they'd leave, and, they'd be good. His father and his mother would be good. And then again, it happened again, right? It happened again. And it's a continuing thing. Those who are dealing with domestic violence in the household or seen it as a child, you probably have seen it and you understand what he's talking about. His father ended up leaving the home, right? And this is where it kind of triggered his mental illness. His father left the home. He started to have anxiety, depression. In school, he'd get into fights, have anxiety in school. They recommended that he see someone. So at the Queensbridge housing projects, there was, I guess maybe, somewhere in the projects, in the actual building, his building, there was a counselor that a lot of kids would go to, and he would see a lot of kids there that he's seen from the neighborhood, and there were a few there that were dealing with anger management issues just like him. And the counselor told him, you need to take up a sport. Take up a sport. It'll help to relieve some stress, help to relieve some pressure. And there it is. He started playing basketball, right? And basketball kind of became his vice. Picked up basketball became his vice. And then the story is written. You know what I mean? Once he picked up basketball, his father continued to work with him. This is when, when you watch the documentary, you'll see Capone and Noriega, all these rappers that talk about seeing him, because they lived, and they show it on the documentary, they lived, door to door, across the street from each other. They see him out there playing basketball, this and that. And then it also goes into, there was a time, Ron Artest, obviously, he's a guy that, he's a different type of a cat, right? That's Ron Artest, different type of a cat. And there was a point where he decided he wanted to be a drug dealer. I thought this was a pretty funny story, though. He decided he wanted to be a drug dealer. He was going to start selling crack. So he went and he learned how to cook it up and everything. And when he did his first sale, I guess he got scared, he got nervous, whatever it is. He did his first sale, and he didn't even collect the money. He gave the money to the customer. I mean, he gave the crack to the customer and didn't collect the money. Hurry up, ran inside, back to his people inside. They was like, yo, where's the money? He was like, oh, I was so scared I didn't even get the money. I was just trying to get out of there. That's when he knew selling crack wasn't for him. You know what I mean? I thought that was a funny story. But I don't know. Did you guys hear? Were you guys able to hear?
Which interview was this? I didn't hear anything that you just.
Okay, there's it was an interview from Ebony Magazine, and you can find it on YouTube. It was a pretty good interview.
Wait,
And
the one. Are you talking about the interview you put in the chat, or you put the one you're talking about right now about the
the one that I put in the chat.
Oh, the one you put in the chat.
Yeah. The one that I just had in the chat. He was, he was just kind of talking about, really his purpose for doing the video. You know what I mean? And
yeah, I didn't see that one. I saw he was on TV a couple times. And I saw him on someone Hot 97. He was doing an interview for them, and so I think he mentioned some of the similar things on some of the other platforms. But I'll have to check the one out for Ebony.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to hear it. So it came in low for me,
Okay.
and I didn't see the others. But when it comes to awareness for issues that affect the communities, I always check for those. So I'll definitely check that out. But to your point though about picking up something of a distraction to get him away, less focused on the thing that was a feeder to the his diagnosed illnesses in the first place. Him picking up basketball, I did see that, and I think that should be something that it's saying. Well, to put it in the way, having resources available and trying to divert more resources to things like that is a catch-22, because resources are limited, and diverting one from another may be a tricky thing. But I do feel like mental illness is one that should be high priority, because it leads to other vices. It leads to other stuff like maybe violence and other things that we could probably avoid if we do address it. So
you mentioned a good point about how he used basketball as a way to distract, or not distract, but to get him to channel his anger or his, frustration to somewhere else. And I think that's probably like, as I think we've seen a lot of people, that's probably like stage one, and then over the course of time, eventually, whatever you're dealing with, whatever trauma you're dealing with, it has to be eventually be addressed. Because I mean, we see it in the entertainment space. Even musicians, right? They channel all this energy into music, but then if you don't address the actual problem itself, or what caused that grief in the first place, then that can come back to almost that can cause problems down the road. I mean, I'm thinking of someone just like I don't know what's a good example, like Kanye West, right? So I'll put this example out. Once his mom passed, then obviously he was dealing with so much, but he channeled energy into all the music, but he never really addressed what was bothering him until recently. Right. So all this stuff kind of ballooned into something much bigger than it.
Right. And to Gilbert's point. And to your point, though, the thing he should have addressed, Kanye West, and maybe Ron Artest too, was a feeling of remorse and regret, where people have this false sense of regret, where they feel like they should have done something better, and when they were in that situation. But the truth is that they could not have done anything better, because they were probably helpless in the situation. Agreed. Like Ron Artest being a kid while his parents were fighting each other. There was nothing Ron Artest could have done then. You know what I'm saying? And same thing with Kanye. Kanye West is not a doctor. His mother passed away from a medical deal. Right. So regardless of what Kanye feels like he could have done, he couldn't. But the thing about that though is we should probably be more aware as family members and friends of things, when tragic things happen. We should be the first to jump in and try to talk about these things. I think what happens is, and I say that as a military veteran that have seen a lot of stuff, right? In the moment, when I'm 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 years old, I see these things, and I tell myself it's okay, just drive on, soldier, drive on, whatever. And then you get to be 30 and you have little kids and you can't sleep and you stay up late. You have these weird vices and all these things that come back from some things you did years earlier. You look back and say, as somebody that has some type of awareness, is I should have probably sought counseling then, but now that I am aware, what I'll do is either talk to other vets or talk to agencies that are out there that that get in certain groups that I can talk to and say what's on my mind without being judged. I think that's a big fear. Like big, strong guys like myself and Ron Artest, the last thing we want to do is have people look at us as if we're vulnerable.
Exactly.
Vulnerable.
No,
and I'm sorry, go ahead, Bill.
No, I was saying you're on the point with everything you're saying. Just finish your point. I think I interrupted your point.
No, okay. Well, the thing is, I think we come from a cowboy style era where when you're young, you see these things like, men are supposed to be a certain thing, big, strong, don't cry, never be vulnerable, always be in control of your situations and things of that sort. But then when you are in those situations where you can't control everything and you don't feel like you can handle these things and you're not the strong guy in the moment, it makes you feel vulnerable. And so instead of seeking help, what we do is try to do it harder. And that is the exact opposite of what you should do in the moment. If you need help, you should seek help. Because if you could handle the situation on your own, the situation would have been handled, and not in a bad way, but in a neat way where everybody that's involved with these situations can come out of these things not only avoiding bodily harm, but the other things that go with it too, like emotional harm and mental harm and things like that. So, and without getting too preachy, it's basically what Ron is saying is he didn't know that he needed help. Now he knows that he needs help and he's seeking help and wants to help others that were in the situation that he was in before. And he's willing to help those people too.
Yeah. You know what it is everything you mentioned is perfect. And I think the most important thing is that the actual process to get to that point is not like a linear process. That is not something that's, it's not something that's it's personalized to each individual's, whatever they're going through. So, it may not take one person the exact same time for, to cope from, whatever they're dealing with that it took another person to cope from it. So, you go through the process, but it can take however long it takes. There's no hard and fast rule. It's not like a regimen. It's not like some strict plan like that. As long as you start the conversation, you start the process, then things will work out on its own. It's almost like, if you think about it, I guess one good analogy is like if you look at like a rehabbing an injury, right? Like you get like a sports injury or you get any sort of injury, right? And if you're rehabbing that injury and you don't like spend the proper time to properly rehabilitate your muscles or ligaments or whatever, that can cause pain somewhere else, and that compensates you compensates the other side of your body. Then the other side of your body gets hurt, and then all of a sudden psychologically that things mess up because you ask yourself why is my body in pain all the time. So it can create this like cycle of pain, both physically and mentally. So that's almost like it's a similar analogy. It's almost like a similar I guess like a feeling in that type of way. But
because you're out of balance.
Exactly. Right. You are out of balance.
You're emotionally, people don't know, but emotionally you can become out of balance and dependent on certain situations that make you feel good. Hold on a second. Gaston, go, man. Go.
Yeah.
I took on a stray, right? Big Freezy's bleeding heart, right? So I took on a stray, and he's like under me like 24/7.
He wants some attention, yeah. But so Ron Artest, after trying to sell drugs, and he really started trying to sell drugs because Lloyd Newton, a basketball player in his neighborhood, got killed. He started looking away from basketball a little bit, but came back to it. Started playing AAU again. Like I said, he's playing AAU with guys like Elton Brand, Lamar Odom. You know what I mean? Can you imagine?
God Sham God, yeah.
God Sham God too.
Yo, I mean, can you imagine having that squad? You know what I'm saying? I mean, and really, what they were saying in the documentary is this kind of led to a change where people are really starting to look at AAU basketball. You know, you have a super team like that, and you can go see 3 recruits at one time. You know, it's crazy now. Elton Brand actually is from Peekskill, so you know it's a little bit upstate. But you know, when you play AAU basketball, you know you're gonna get players from all over the place. You know what I mean?
Makes you wonder though. That's almost like the last. I don't want to say last era, but if you think of like New York City basketball, right? You know, like Artest and Odom kind of represented the last of like a dying breed of like New York City basketball. Like ever since then, there's only like a handful of players that have come through the city ball, but you know they were like the two like ones that like stood out in that type of manner.
Yeah,
just like
that's because ballers are from New Jersey, Viv. I'm from Jersey City. I'm from Jersey City, man.
I grew up in Jersey too. Right. No, but I mean, it's kind of funny. It's interesting because Ron stayed home. If you think about it, he stayed in Queens.
Right.
Lamar went up to I think Rhode Island, right?
Rhode Island, right?
Yeah, Rhode Island.
And so you know he went on to win the championship, city championship for LaSalle. During that time, winning the championship, like they said in the documentary, it was like everybody in the crowd was just there supporting Ron. You know what I mean? You know, and he was going through stuff. He had a baby at that time. His cousin Capone, went to prison for shooting a cop.
Right.
He was going through a lot, and he committed to St. John's and brought that to St. John's.
Right.
And Mike Jarvis was talking about his experience with Ron Artest at St. John's, and you know, coming to practice every day was just something different, right? Every day was something different. Yeah, he might not want to practice one day, but he got after it, but he could see the ups and downs, the highs and lows and ups and downs, you know, and to no surprise, once he got drafted into the NBA, he got the same exact things happen. He goes to Chicago. They try to get him some help in Chicago. He goes to Chicago with Elton Brand. That's, you know, so that had to be a good thing. I mean, just imagine that. You know what I mean? You go to the NBA with your buddy, you know, that you've been playing AAU ball with.
Right.
But the mental health, but you know, the mental health conditions just continue, and he's erratic. I mean, like he says, he hated his teammates, not hate them for who they were, but just because they would have a skirmish in practice. And so he'd bring that hate home, come back to practice with the same hate.
Right.
You know,
he took that bulldog mentality from like the basketball courts in Queensbridge he took that to the NBA, but he didn't know how to like, you know, temper it a little bit, right?
And he still had those anger management issues. Yeah. You know, he was kind of a loner, kind of, you know, off to the side to himself. He gets traded to Indiana.
And don't forget also, Sim, he was drinking quite a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
I think he mentioned earlier in interviews that he had basically like a handle of like Hennessy in the locker room.
Exactly.
He was like drinking during the halftime.
And as a matter of fact, when he was supposed to work out for the New York Knicks, he's told this to the Daily News. When he was supposed to work out with the New York Knicks, he was drunk. He got drunk the night before. Mm-hmm. The next day, he was too sick to make it to the workout, which is probably one of the reasons why the Knicks passed on him. And they probably, you know, St. John's is right there in New York. I'm sure they had people. They knew what was going on in practice. They knew what, you know, the word gets out. The public, especially at that time, the public probably didn't hear it as we might have heard it today because, you know, social media and all that stuff gets around so quick. But it was different back then. You know, but you still have inside sources. I'm sure the Knicks had inside sources about him, which you understand why they may have passed on him because of those things, you know. And then he gets to Indiana, and this is when things really get crazy when he gets to Indiana. You know, him and Jermaine O'Neal. He got the same issues. He's a bulldog. Right. But he's still dealing with the same issues. Even though in Indiana they do get him help.
Right.
But he's not fully like you were saying earlier, Freezy, he wasn't ready to fully accept it, right? So he's not fully accepting the help. It's like, okay, I'll do it, but he's not really ready to accept it, that he really needs help. And then obviously you got the whole thing that, you know, him and Jermaine O'Neal don't get along. Steven Jackson, you know, gets to the team. Him and Steven Jackson get along, but Steven Jackson can notice some things about him, you know, and see things that's going on. And when you hear the stories, you know, Donnie Walsh and everyone is like talking about him. It's like they could feel it was a time bomb, that if something was going to happen, you could feel it. They could feel it. They could see it, because he'd go from 0 to 100, just like boom.
Instantly.
You know what I mean? And
But like
instantly,
Walk had patience.
right.
Like he was trying to say, oh, this is like a, you know, this might just go away. So he gave him he probably had a longer leash on.
Yeah.
Compared to any other GM. Some of like, if you look at the Bulls, I think Jerry Krause got rid of him like what, 2 years, 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
and if I could add another point too, the Ron Artest the Knicks not drafting Ron Artest. It's not just a Ron Artest issue. If y'all remember, the Knicks had just traded for a guy that choked his coach in '99.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
They did sign him to an extension too, I think.
Right, and the guy had just served the year before a year-long suspension, just like Ron Artest would serve later on in his career.
Right.
And if you look at, do you bring a young guy that's as volatile as Ron Artest into a situation where you have a veteran guy that's super volatile as well? So it may have been one of those situations where it's just, you know, we already have one of these guys, you know, we don't know when his cap is, when he's going to blow up, and we don't want to bring a young guy that has a history of doing that to the same team and dealing with this guy too.
You know, they'd also dealt with they got sick and tired of Anthony Mason right before they, you know, he got in some trouble legally before he got traded or something. So not that I don't think that would have played, but obviously like the stuff that happened, you know, leading up, I just think that it's probably for the best of everyone, best for Ron's career too. You know, that he didn't come to New York, because I don't think it would have worked out. You know, with a very veteran heavy team, it could have just been like, it just exploded into like a big problem. Like it was like worse than, you know, way worse than Dennis Rodman on the Spurs, where it's just like a complete culture shock. Like,
So it's probably the best decision for Ron Artest, the person, that he went to Chicago and not Ron Artest, the player.
Yeah.
So
but you know, he ended up in Indiana, and then of course the Malice and the Palace happened.
Then the trade request, and then just like,
you know, and then you know, and he suspended. He was suspended for the rest of that season. Steven Jackson was suspended for 30 games. Jermaine O'Neal suspended for 25 games.
Yeah, he got 15 after that. I think he was the only one who got a successful appeal. But Jackson got 30. I remember that.
You know who didn't get a major suspension though? Who did not get him? Ben Wallace for instigating the whole thing.
Yeah, David Stern, he messed up there. You should have given Ben Wallace a much longer suspension.
Right, because without Ben Wallace throwing stuff at Ron Artest, when Ron Artest walked away peacefully, you would not have fans throwing stuff at Ron Artest.
That's true. And you know what was funny? When Steven Jackson, he said they got in the locker room, they're sitting down in the locker room, and Ron looks over to him and says, "You think we're gonna be in trouble? You think we're going to get in trouble for this?"
Yeah.
And Steven Jackson is like, "Man, we may not be in the NBA. We might be playing overseas together." And Jermaine O'Neal, I guess, got super hot off of that comment, and you know, went to attack him. Yeah, I don't think they fought, but went to attack him.
Well, now we know that stuff, because they didn't mention. So if you were at Grantland, they did a whole thing about the Malice and the Palace. Was it like 5 years ago or whatever? But this documentary finally depicted like what actually happened when Ron Artest said, "Do we get suspended? Or are we going to get in trouble or not?" And we actually now knew that Jermaine O'Neal was right about to like fight him. It was just like, that was like the craziest thing. I think actually like that more than the Malice and the Palace. I think the actual turning point, like the turning point in his life, was probably when he served that suspension for the domestic violence.
Yeah.
Like Sacramento, he got suspended, I think, like 7 or 8 games. I think it might have been to start the season. 2007. That suspension, I think that one really triggered, okay, I really need help. So
Yeah, I
then
think
they
so.
literally just like, went one by one by one by one. Okay, anger management, parent, counselor, or it's all counseling, anger management, parent, father counseling, whatever they call it. Like just random counseling as a whole. Then they went to that's when they really got serious with it. I think that was like the true turning point.
Yeah,
Right.
I think so. I think
Well,
so too.
Ron knew he had to grow up though, and with the domestic violence thing.
Yeah.
This is something, somebody who he really, really loved, and it was something that he saw his mom and pops go through.
Exactly.
Right. And so
the moment that the kid hit then your kids are seeing it too. Then it must have struck.
Right. And so now it's like you replaying this thing, and do you want to have this thing be generational? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's probably the same thing his pops was saying. That's why his pops left. They're like, man, we doing this in front of my son. I don't want this thing to be generational or for somebody to get hurt.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? When people love each other, because the fact of the matter is husbands and wives, boyfriends and girlfriends are gonna argue. It's life, and nobody's gonna agree all the time. But when it escalates, is where adults have to have let cooler heads prevail. Let somebody win occasionally. Basically, is how you should do it. So
yeah,
but
but I do agree with you, Viv. I think that was a point where it really did. He really did say, okay, I got to get this thing together. He goes to Houston. I mean, because he could probably feel it, right? One, his family, he's hurting his family, and then two, now teams are like, I don't want to deal with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So now his career is at stake as well. So, I mean, he had money. He can probably support his family. But still, now his career, the very thing that, he took up to try to help himself with these mental illnesses, he's about to lose, right? So, he goes to Houston. And then finally ends up in LA. And I like the story.
I think
on
that's
how,
where the reputation of Ron Artest really changed. Once he
exactly
minus the James Harden thing, I think overall, when you look into the big picture, that's when the public perception of Ron Artest, completely.
I like the story when he said the Lakers lost to Boston. Yeah, and he went into the locker room, and he said, I want to speak to Kobe. And he's like, Kobe's in the shower, and he's like, man, I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I don't feel like waiting around. I want to speak to Kobe now. And Kobe's like, I'm in the shower, and he wants me to get out the shower and talk to him. But he talks to him, and he's like, I'm coming to play with you. This is not going to happen to you again. I'm coming to play with you. He doesn't end up going that time. He goes to Houston, but then he finally does go and play with Kobe. And
he was traded to Houston, so he actually was under contract. And then once he finally got out of his contract, he's like, I'm coming to Lakers. And it's just I think just being around. I was saying being around Phil. I think Kobe Bryant was the best teammate he probably ever had, and I think that was probably just being around Kobe was. I mean, Kobe had a lasting influence, not only just on Ron Artest, but on people like Pau Gasol, for example.
Yeah.
Right.
But that those two together, there's some calming influence.
Right. Yeah. I think Ron probably balanced Kobe, because Kobe Bryant was not a good dude up until that point. Now, we're talking about Kobe Bryant. The dude, he was not what I would say is somebody that I would look to for,
He didn't trust a lot of teammates. Let's just say that.
Right. And Ron Artest went to him and talked to him man to man after a major event happened. Both of them were vulnerable. Kobe just lost in the finals. You're trying to get over that. I mean, just lost it. I mean, just walked off the floor and got in the shower. You know what I'm saying? And then you got Ron Artest, who's been going through all these things. And Ron knows he needed Kobe, but he also knew that Kobe needed him. And so for two men to talk to each other and the time that they're vulnerable, I give Ron big ups for that, because competitors usually say, I can do this on my own. You know what I'm saying? So,
but it makes it real interesting that Kobe Bryant was teammates with Lamar Odom and Artest for all these years, and then there was some calming influence. Like once Odom left the Lakers, like his life just like completely spiraled out of control.
Yeah.
I mean, it took the combination of obviously like the therapy and everything else. It made life a lot better. Post NBA for Artest, but obviously, for Odom, he had to go through some things, and he's just starting to recover through some of the things. But I know Kobe was around for both those players, whenever they needed him. So, he was always there, influential on and off the court.
Right. Indeed.
Yeah. And having Phil Jackson, especially at that time around, that had to help. That had to help him. And that had to help Ron Artest at that time. Nate, what's popping, man? What's going on with you, man?
What's up, Sim? How you doing?
I'm good. Did you get a chance to see the documentary tonight?
I did not, man. I did not. I'll have to check it out some other time. But
yeah, make sure you check that out. It's very good, really good. But there's the story, and even even there, I mean, I guess at that point going to the Lakers, though, like he said, he was ready to. He had but he was dealing with his mental health issues, and he was ready to really focus in on basketball. Just imagine, there was a point where Ron Artest was an all-star, averaging 20, 22, 23 points a game, a lockdown defender. Just imagine if he was able to, he didn't have those mental health issues, and he was able to focus in on just basketball at that time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He may have been a 6, 7, 8 time all-star.
Yeah, Ron Artest was a very underrated player in his games. Honestly, Sam, I feel like the turning point for Ron Artest was the Malice at the Palace. I think after that, he got the bad reputation, pulling people's shorts down and, just kind of being a pest, but in a bad way. We kind of talked about that just before you came in, and we kind of thought that maybe when he got the domestic violence charge, maybe that was the turning point. After the Malice in the Palace, it came back. It was shocking that I think he made the right move, but it was shocking, and Jermaine O'Neal, those guys, Jermaine O'Neal obviously has some real issues towards Ron Artest still, but yeah, that was just a really ugly situation.
Yeah, when he asked, now the Indiana Pacers, they supported him. The teammates, they were there. They may not have always liked him, but they were there. They went through all this stuff with him, and then he asked to be traded. That's like a slap in the face. That really is. Right. But I think he probably made the right choice for himself, because staying there, there's still going to be animosity with some teammates and stuff.
Right.
It might have been tough. And Jermaine O'Neal, he said after Ron Artest won the championship, Jermaine O'Neal wasn't happy for him. He was like, because if Ron Artest was able to keep his head straight, we could have won a championship. Now you asked to be, after going through all of this stuff, the organization supports you, teammates stay by your side, regardless, even though I don't like you, I stay by your side. Then you ask for a trade, you go win a championship with the Lakers. He was like, I'm not happy for you.
Yeah, I don't know if they would have won a championship, but
yeah, that's petty though, son. That's to me. And I've been around Jermaine O'Neal maybe 2 or 3 times. And the dude, to me, in my experience, is the salt of the earth type dude. Like, you don't see, dude is like 1 in 100 good person, right? I mean a really good person. So he played with my cousin Jason Brown at Eau Claire High School in Columbia, right? Mm-hmm. But the dude is, man, salter. But what he did was petty. I think sometimes in situations where you can't control a situation, sometimes it's just best to leave the environment. And explaining to people why you're leaving the environment is not always easy. You know what I'm saying? It's like breaking up with a girl that is not good for you, but she thinks you're perfect. You know what I'm saying? You gotta break it off and get out of that environment. And telling the people that you're leaving is not always easy. Not always easy to pick the correct words without hurting somebody's feelings. And that, to me, that's the reason why he did it that way. He couldn't just go to them guys and say, "Hey, man, I'm sick. You know what I'm saying? I need help. This environment is not helping," because they're going to say, "Man, we got all the help you need. We got all this stuff right here. What's wrong with you?"
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's just my view on it. So
it's hard to go back in hindsight. Some of those things.
It is. But it was a great documentary, really good documentary, and I just recommend that you go ahead and, if you haven't seen it, go ahead and see the documentary.
It's on Showtime if you have Showtime.
Yep. It's on Showtime if you have Showtime, and you'll be able to play it back. It's on demand on Showtime. So it really good documentary. I'm not done yet. I just want to do a quick advertisement. If you are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell. No, we only got like 85 people in here tonight, so I appreciate you guys for being in the chat. I know you guys are talking current New York Knicks stuff. Well, Ron Artest was only New York Knicks for a short while, but I know you guys are talking New York Knicks stuff in the chat. I see you talking about Frank, you talking about different stuff. So we're gonna get to some New York Knicks stuff. You know what I mean? We're gonna go ahead and get to some New York Knicks stuff, but not current New York Knicks stuff. We'll talk about some current stuff before we're done. What I want to talk about is just some great Knicks memories. I want to feel good about some New York Knicks memories. All right. But before I do that, guys, subscribe to the channel, ring that notification bell, and let's go. Let's talk about some great Knicks memories. And there's a lot of them out there. I just picked a couple, and I think I might do this every show. Just grab a Knicks memory, just so we can feel good about it.
You might as well just go to the Knicks film school and just check out my history moments.
Okay. but I like to talk about it.
I know.
But you can go on Knicks Film School and check out Viz's history moments. But I'm gonna tell you one of the greatest moments for me was when Allen Houston hit that game winner.
Yeah, you're in my mind, Sam. That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Man, that thing was it was just amazing, man. It was just super duper amazing. 4.5 seconds left. He goes up, boom, off the backboard, through.
Right.
It was just like, and what was crazy about it is I felt like he was going to hit that shot at the moment. I really did. I was sitting there, I was like, man, he's going to hit this shot. I know he's going to hit this shot. And boom, he knocks it down.
You know what's even crazier about it? That was never even supposed to happen to begin with. The actual final play, but I think it's supposed to be like a Sprewell, like an isolation play.
Yeah.
Supposed to run a pick and roll. And they lost the ball. They got then, the Knicks kept the ball. And then that's when the play originated. Like that was the original play was supposed to be a spree ISO, which is really crazy. But somehow things, the luck just crazy. I was gonna mention. Let me mention one thing real quick about the '99 playoffs, because I was doing some research on this stuff. And things will be coming up over the course of the next couple weeks in the history moments. '99 playoffs. Up until the NBA Finals, we were the road team in every series.
Every series, because we were the 8th seed.
Yeah, we were the 8th seed. That's right.
We won every game one, I think. Every single game one we won. We won a game one against the Hawks. We won a game one against the Pacers. Until we beat the Spurs. Then the Spurs were a machine. That's a whole separate issue. But we won every single game one. But my moments, because I remember watching the '99 playoffs. That was like the first year I actually, like the first basketball games I actually watched, like that whole '99 playoffs. But I remember all these games being on NBC and everything, and then I remember the Atlanta Hawks series, and the pivotal moment of that one was I forget, was it game? It must have been game 3 or game 2. I forget where it was. But if you remember the Camby dunk on Mutombo?
Yep. I remember that.
You can't find the video on YouTube because it's ridiculously pixelated, but. You remember they used to have like the NBA action or whatever, recapping all like the highlights every week or whatever.
Right.
If you used to remember those things used on TV, I forget what channel it used to be on. I think it used to be on MSG. It's part of something syndicated. every half an hour they would talk about like some like the top plays, and I just remember like seeing that dunk. That was like probably like the number one play that week. That Marcus Camby dunk over Mutombo, and then you would see it like everywhere. I mean, the original NBA.com website, they would have that play. It was just like that was a surreal moment. And then, you know, obviously you got the Pacers series, and you know you got the 4-point play. And you just watch that over and over and over again. It's just,
Yeah,
you know.
and here we go. I got the 4-point play right here because that's one of my next greatest moments. For the New York Knicks, man, that 4-point play. The Knicks down 91-88. LJ has the ball, and boom, there it goes.
Now fires a three.
Gets hit, and the garden erupts. I'm telling you, man, that was. I cannot wait until we get back to these times, man. I just can't wait until we get back to these times.
But Sim, you know what the common theme of all those games were? We played gritty, hard defense.
We did. I mean, that's who we were back then.
Handled by Johnson.
No, that's what the NBA was. That's who we were.
Now fires a
now, also, I'm going to say this, right? Because yes, teams did play gritty and hard defense. Some of it also looked like teams played gritty and hard defense, even because the score was low. And the score was low. The game was played totally different back then, right? You pounded the ball. Clock. You used the entire shot clock. You pounded the ball down to the big man. There weren't as many threes being thrown up. You didn't. The game wasn't as open. It was a different type of basketball game.
I'll be honest, that Jeff Van Gundy offense, that's not a pretty offense that we saw.
No.
That was not a pretty offense.
That's what I'm trying to say is that our team more so had to be gritty and defensively sound because our offense was so bad. And,
no, it wasn't that. It was just the culture that we built up.
Houston.
It was more the culture, right? Like that was a culture was built off of like the Riley culture. You know, we're gonna win games. We're gonna win games based on defense and grit, not because we have bad offense. It's just this is how we're gonna win games. You know, they kept that culture through the entire decade, and you know
But it still works today because you look at the finals. Toronto was shut down Golden State in that first game, and played closely through Kawhi. I mean,
but their offense, but their offense is also way more sophisticated than anything Jet Van Gundy ran.
Yeah.
So you know, I mean,
they got a hell of a player in Kawhi, and Siakam had a.
Also, I mean, they're also it's a different.
But defensively, they play really good defense.
They did. I want to ask you guys this: that '99 finals. You know, people back then didn't really want Patrick Ewing, you know, to come back and play. What do you guys think about that?
He needed
What do you guys think about that?
Who, Ewing?
Yeah.
It wouldn't have mattered in that series, honestly.
It wouldn't have mattered. You know,
it wouldn't have mattered. He was already 37 by that point, and the lockout really, to be quite honest, Ewing during the lockout year, like he was not in like a great basketball shape, you know, and
he was a big body. I mean, you were putting Chris Dudley out there and Marcus Camby against.
Yeah, but 37-year-old Ewing versus we're talking about literally Tim Duncan.
Tim Duncan and
Tim Duncan and David Robinson. They were pretty much just destroying anybody.
Do you think that the Knicks would have been better if they just did not let Ewing play?
What do you mean? Not let you?
He came back and played in the finals.
No, Ewing didn't play in the finals. No.
He played in the finals.
No, he tore his Achilles.
He was out
for some reason. I thought he played in the finals. Maybe I'm wrong. My bad.
He was out before the finals. That's why they were saying that.
I know he was out, but I thought he. Okay, I guess. You know what? I guess it
was Dudley. It was Dudley and Camby, and Thomas was our big man.
But Larry Johnson had a sprained knee. He suffered a sprained knee in game 6.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and then he played in game 1, and he was pretty much getting mauled because he had to guard Duncan. They had no other choice.
But if you watch those series, they didn't get dominated as bad as people thought they were by Duncan. It was more so we just couldn't hit shots.
I mean, Spurs. Tim Duncan did dominate.
Well, what I'm saying is, you look at the scores. The scores weren't crazy.
No, but Nate, that's the perspective was. Like
but we couldn't make shots either.
You couldn't make shots because they had the Twin Towers. Yeah, but the Twin Towers, right? You had Duncan and David Robinson, and they were just, there's no way you're going to get shots off any of them because, to be quite honest, who drove into the paint on the Knicks team? Without Ewing, obviously you're a very perimeter-oriented
That's what I'm
team.
saying. All we have is Camby and Allen Houston on the.
Yeah, the problem was Camby and Larry Johnson both got into foul trouble because Duncan got him into foul trouble.
Right.
And
Larry Johnson even had to play center in stretches.
Yeah.
And also too though, to what Viv was saying, so we ran a revised offense where Allen Houston and Sprewell were getting shots in mid range whenever they wanted to. The only thing is, if both of them scored 20 apiece, that's 40 points. Where are you getting your other offense from?
Yeah, and they got their offense for the first 3 quarters in game 1, and then they only scored like 5 points combined.
But let me tell you, with that type of lineup, with the type of lineup we had then, right? Marcus Camby, Charles Sprewell, Allen Houston, that's the type of lineup that you would play with today.
Right.
Yes. So the mistake, if I was Jeff Van Gundy, like this is probably in hindsight, right? That's a lineup you got to play fast with. But in order to play fast, you gotta force a lot of turnovers.
And make the other team miss. The other team has to miss, and you got to create long rebounds to get in transition.
Right, and you got to practice that though. You don't just play. You don't just all of a sudden play fast. If you've been playing a slow-paced game for 82 games, you've been playing slow pace. You don't all of a sudden just become a fast break team.
Yeah, I think. I think the overall mistake that probably, obviously the lockout year, there were so many. They had the whole feud between Ernie Grunfeld, Jeff Van Gundy, whatever. But I think one of the biggest lessons that they Van Gundy and the Knicks probably didn't learn. They were trying to basically recreate the '94 Knicks to some extent, right? So they never fully adjusted to building past beyond Ewing, right? So all the teams are kind of built around Ewing for so long that it almost came to a point too late where they got young too late, right? Or they didn't have the right pieces. And then when they did have those guys, when you had Sprewell, you had Camby or whatever, they were on the bench to start the season. So they had to bring them into the lineup. And Sprewell actually started, I think, the Heat series. He started off the bench. So he was coming off the bench for, I think, a good chunk of the playoffs.
And also too, they had a depleted bench in the finals too. They really had no depth behind.
Well, yeah, they also had
But Van Gundy didn't play young guys either. Remember John Wallace. What's the other guy from Mrs. Dante Jones? And Walter McCarty. Yeah, those guys didn't get run. The Knicks didn't develop young guys because they were always stressing playoff runs.
Yeah.
So and you can even throw Hubert Davis in, who they drafted in the early '90s, who was an excellent shooter out of North Carolina.
So they played him. The problem is that they signed Houston and they got rid of Davis because they had no choice. They all right, which is I guess it was fair. But I mean, yeah, their depth. When you have guys like Herb Williams and
hey man, leave Herb
No,
Williams.
not Herb Williams.
Herb Williams.
I'll go back. Let's say David Wingate.
Okay,
David Wingate.
Those guys, they have no reason to be on an NBA roster, but they were those people commanded.
David Wingate, did he play with Ewing at Georgetown?
Was he at Georgetown?
Yeah,
I thought. Yeah, David Wingate went to Georgetown.
Yeah, he definitely.
Did he play with Ewing?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I think so. But I think he left a couple years. I think he left a couple years before Pat. I think.
Okay.
So did he leave in '85 or did he leave before?
Was he in there in '85? I can't remember, man. I'm sorry, but he was definitely there with Pat. So.
Yeah. It wasn't Kurt Thomas on that team too?
Yes, Kurt Thomas was on the team, and he actually played pretty well. He was just. Again, his problem was he was too small for Tim Duncan and them.
But he was undersized. The guy was rugged. That
guy was rugged. And actually,
bring back Kurt Thomas.
Ironically speaking, Kurt Thomas started his career with Pat Riley in the Heat. He was actually a decent lottery pick.
Yeah.
He got hurt.
We need to find a Kurt Thomas on our team.
Hey, you know what else? Kurt Thomas. People look at him as the guy that'll hack up the opposing center. but he actually led the NCAA in scoring.
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
Yes.
Yep.
The dude was a scoring machine in college.
Yeah.
So.
Another memory of mine, and this one, really is, kind of personal, is when Ewing against the Indiana Pacers, the Knicks were down 95-94 with about 5.9 seconds left. Ewing got the ball at the high post and scored, put the Knicks up one. That's a big one for me. I know the Knicks. I know, we know what went on from there afterwards. But
I like that dunk was at the end. I think the '94. The '94 Eastern Conference Finals.
But
was that Reggie Miller's?
But look, that was big for me. That was it was. I was so excited. I jumped up and down, landed on the floor, boom. Right.
Wow.
And my neighbors, I'm screaming and hollering. My neighbors called the cops on me.
Wow.
They called the cops on me, man. I jumped, boom, landed on the ground because I'm going crazy. My neighbors called the cops on me. In '94, I was 19. It was 95. I'm sorry. I was 19 years old, and I was one of those guys. I had my own apartment. You know what I'm saying? I actually had my own apartment since I was 17, and I won't go into all of that. Huh? I won't go into all of that, but I was living over top of the dude, man, and the thing was, there was always some kind of something going on. We played a lot of video games. We were making noise, jumping and bumping and doing all of that, and I must have knocked down some pictures or something like that off his wall, because next thing you know, I get a boom, 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 boom at the door, and I'm like, what in the world is going on? And the cop was like, your neighbor complaining that you're making all kinds of noise, and I was like, my bad. I just seen it. I told him, I just seen Patrick Ewing hit the da-da-da-da, and it was all good from there. It was just a complaint, But
biggest regret, I didn't actually watch the '97 playoffs, but had the Knicks just been a wee bit smarter in not leaving the bench.
Oh my gosh! Don't even talk about it.
If they would have won that series, they would have I believe they would have faced the Bulls right afterwards.
Yeah, I think we could have beat the Bulls.
Yeah, because we folded to the Bulls that previous year when they won 72 games. I think we lost in 5 games.
No, we lost in 6 games to the Bulls, and that year. But at the beginning of the season, a lot of pundits. I think was it 6 games? I'm almost certain it's 6 games. But at the beginning of the season, a lot of people picked the Knicks to knock off the Bulls and win the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, actually, it was 5 games. Actually, that's why I was right.
5, okay. Oh yeah, you're right. You're right.
I know we definitely got 1 game in there, and then we just lost the rest of them. But we would have made the Bulls one. That Bulls one would have been very interesting.
Yeah, that would have been because we won 60 games that season. 61 games that season.
We won 57 games that season, I think.
57
That's
games?
a lot of games, man.
Yeah, but Miami won 61.
So Miami won 61?
Yeah. Miami
won 61. To make y'all laugh, that Miami team that won 61 games is running the same type offense that the Houston Rockets are running right now with Tim Hardaway ISOing at the top of the key. I don't know if y'all remember that or not, but Tim Hardaway started stroking the 3 in Golden State, and before you know it, this dude is ISOing everybody at the top of the key and not going to the basket. Everybody was knew him for driving, but the dude had a 3-pointer or whatever, and he just killed teams.
I hated
he had quite a few 3-point shooters. They had Hardaway, they had a very young Jamal Mashburn, Marley.
Yeah.
I hated Marley and I hated Tim Hardaway. Those are the 2 guys.
They had Rashawn Leonard.
Rashawn Leonard, that one bad.
And look, after that whole thing with Charlie Ward and getting slammed and everyone leaving off the bench, and the Knicks, they were up. Well, we were up 3-1.
Yep.
Right. And then we lose. Miami. I think they got swept by the Bulls, mate. Or I don't know. Maybe did they get swept or
they got swept?
Either swept
they
or fall.
They lost by 5.
Okay, 4-1. But every year after that, we played them in the playoffs. We beat them, Miami. Every year we played them after that, we beat them.
Hate Miami.
I was so hurt because I really felt like we could beat the Bulls that year. I know the Bulls were, knocking down, having record seasons and all that kind of stuff. I really felt like we could beat the Bulls.
That was Ewing's last good year.
Yeah, because we were built to play the Bulls. It was like how Toronto right now is built to play against the Warriors. We were built to play against the Chicago Bulls. I really felt like we could beat them.
That 96 offseason where we brought in Houston, Childs, and Larry Johnson was just for the Bulls.
Yep, just for the Bulls.
But that, you know what? Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Viv. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Nah, I mean, we got rid of Mace for this was supposed to happen for this Bulls series, and then it just didn't work out. And then, I mean, I'm trying to say if we take the 4-point play outside of like Larry Johnson's moments to the Knicks, I'm just thinking out loud. Would we have even would we have done this trade again in a sense, right?
We got lucky in that. We got lucky in that little series because
I'm wondering if we kept Anthony Mason around, right, and if we actually figured out to actually seriously play him, rather than having him come off the bench and just be like a backup power forward,
right?
We would have. Would we have unleashed Mason the way that Don Nelson pretty much did, and then eventually Charlotte did?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know what? So what I was thinking is this. I'm gonna tell you my moment first, and then I'm gonna talk to what Viv said. So one of my moments is this. So as a shorty, I'm talking about little. I was watching the Knicks dynasty crumble, like the 69, 70, 70, 71, 71. So they were always good playoff teams, right? Even the year we lost to the Bucks and the Bucks won a championship, right? Those guys were seasoned vets. A lot of those dudes were like 31, 32 during that run, right? So when I finally got into real fandom, those dudes were over the hill. Like Clyde wasn't all defense anymore. You know what I'm saying? Earl of Pearl couldn't go by his man. A few people had retired. As a matter of fact, the year that I became a Knicks fan for real, we traded Clyde to Cleveland, right?
Still compensation too.
Right.
It was for signing Jim Clemens or whatever.
So I was hurt, but then there was like this thing of optimism. Like what we're going to do is just start drafting guys and bringing them up. So my pop sends me to the corner store to get a daily news and a pack of cigarettes, right? So I go, whatever. It's the 70s. Kids can buy beer and cigarettes and all that stuff. But nobody carded nobody. But anyway. So the guy behind the counter is like, hey, Scoop, guess what? We drafted Bill Cartwright last night. And I'm like, Bill Cartwright? Yeah! And then I'm like, who's Bill Cartwright? So my man is like, he's gonna take Willis Reed's spot, man, and he's gonna get us a championship in a couple of years. Right? So I go tell my pops, I'm like, Pops, guess what? He was like, what, man? Why are you smiling? I'm like, we drafted Bill Cartwright last night. And he was like, took the newspaper and threw it in the floor.
To be fair to you, right, is that actually before we go on to my other point, Bill Cartwright he had a couple of decent seasons. The problem is the foot injury actually really that probably messed up his Knicks tenure. But then we get drafted to Ewing, so then there's pretty much no place for him. But
right.
Yeah.
So I'm a Cartwright fan. I love Darryl Walker, Bill Cartwright, Michael Ray Richardson. That's my era of love, like when I fell in love with the Knicks or whatever.
Right. Okay.
But in terms of Cartwright or whatever, so he did do us a lot of serviceable years.
He did.
Right?
Yeah.
But I say that because as Knicks fans, all of our best moments may not result from like one moment, like a Starks dunk. It's like a series of events leading up to a certain thing that turns in our favor, like us losing so much and then us getting Patrick Ewing in the lottery.
Right.
That's a big thing. A lot of fans say they're Knicks fans because of that lottery thing. But to Viv's point, I think what we should have done after we lost in the finals and we realized everybody was old, was we should have did a solid reboot, just like we're doing right now. Just do a rebuild. Because the guys that we had didn't have much value around the NBA because they had too much wear and tear on them, right? Like you couldn't trade Pat because Pat was like a 13-year veteran with bad knees. Oakley didn't have offense. You know, what are you gonna get with Mason? Nobody's gonna give you anything for Starks. What we should have did is did a 2 or 3 year rebuild and go from there. And that way, we probably, by the time 99, 2000, 2001 comes around, we're in a better situation as opposed to having everybody else's cast-offs and no draft picks.
Makes you wonder, though, what would have happened if Pat Riley could have figured out Mark Jackson and they didn't have to trade him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So another one of my favorite memories, and listen, I got a lot of them, so I'm gonna start kind of incorporating this into the show and just pulling up favorite memories. So I'm not leaving anything out. I know I see people talk about the John Starks dunk. Of course, that's one of my all-time favorites. I just didn't want to do. I don't know. I didn't want to do it today. I want to do it on another time.
Favorite memory?
I don't know if I have an all-time. Do I have an all-time favorite? I don't know if I have an all-time favorite. I just have a lot of them.
I hate Miami and I love that Houston play. That's always been my all-time Knicks memory.
But when Jeff Van Gundy was fighting for the Knicks, man, that was so. When he was fighting for the Knicks, man, that was so. I was like, oh, look at it. It was crazy.
When have you ever
what I'm saying?
On the ground under a player?
Yeah, and I was watching Jeff Van Gundy today talk about it. You know, one of the things that he said is that Charles Oakley, was holding back, and you could see Charles Oakley like smirking. You know what I'm saying? Charles Oakley was like smirking, and you guys probably in the chat, you guys probably heard sound, couldn't hear me. But Charles Oakley was like smirking and laughing and all this stuff because, Jeff Van Gundy was out there fighting. You know what I'm saying? Van Gundy was like, it's a good thing that Oakley was there. He was like, because having Oakley and all them guys there allowed me to go out there and act tough, but not really have to back it up. You know what I'm saying? I could act tough, but I didn't have to fight anybody. You know what I mean? But yeah, that was that was crazy, man. That was a crazy time. All this stuff.
Yeah, that was a wild one.
So what about Kristaps Porzingis's crossover, Draymond Green in the Garden? They give the Knicks a 2-point lead on Golden State after Golden State won the championship.
Yeah, I remember that.
Anybody remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
That one. Yeah.
How about the block shot and then the dunk on the other side when he put that Phoenix player?
Right.
Well, I was thinking of like the Milwaukee game on ESPN where he did a block and then he like hit a 3 from like 30 feet away or something.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to remember those times too much. Well, let's just go this. I mean, I'll say this: Melo's 42 points in Game 2 of the Boston series. That was
the Christmas game when Melo played, he went off on the Bulls.
That was not Christmas. That was Easter.
The 42-point game is the game that Amari walked off the court and broke his hand on a fire extinguisher, right?
No, that's the back. He strained his back or whatever trying to dunk.
Right.
Oh,
right. The fire extinguisher was in Miami. Fire extinguisher was in Miami.
Okay.
Yeah, that was after. That was in Game 2, I think, where they were like they couldn't figure out how to beat Miami.
Right. Well, they ISO'd Miami to death and wouldn't give Amari the ball. So, I mean.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Insanity.
Insanity, yeah. I mean, that's a whole other thing. Insanity. But at that point, then, if you're ISOing Melo, then the whole Melo and Amari thing's going to never work because you have Tyson Chandler there. And the space is all messed up because Melo's not going to stay on the 3-point line. Amari's not a 3-point shooter. So, You know.
Yeah, and I just put my for people that's in the YouTube chat, I just put my email in the YouTube chat, and if you have moments that you'd like to see me put up here, you know, just email me, you know, and I'll search up the video and we bring it up and talk about it. I'll put it up there
another
one more
moment,
time.
This is a moment I mentioned a week or so ago. The 2000 NBA playoffs. This was I think against Miami. I forgot what game. This is Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. Ewing actually hit the game winner in Game 7. Like he had like a turnaround move for like a dunk, and that actually sealed the game for New York.
What was that?
The Game 7 of the 2000 Eastern Conference semifinals against the Heat in Miami.
Oh yeah.
I forget someone who gave the ball to Ewing in the post. Let me see.
I don't remember, but yeah, I remember because I remember thinking to myself at that time, like, dang, that's just like the Indiana joint.
Yeah, like Ewing got the ball. Zoe tried to steal the ball from him, but then Ewing caught it. He turned around, and then he had this huge dunk to put the Knicks ahead 1.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah, I remember that.
I'm sorry, Sam.
No, I was gonna say I also remember Ewing missing that layup, the finger roll that eliminated the Knicks. That was so painful.
Yeah, it's a pain. Yeah.
That was painful. I know it was painful.
So Viv messed me up just now, man. When he said Carmelo didn't have spacing with Amari and Tyson Chandler. So Knicks fans have been killing me on Twitter about not wanting to have KD, AD, Anthony Davis, and Mitchell Robinson on the floor at the same time. I've been getting roasted for that, and it's just because of what Viv was saying about how if one guy gets the ball, what are the other two guys gonna do?
But see, I feel like because KD and Anthony Davis can both spread the floor, you'll have space and see Amari. But with Amari and Tyson Chandler, neither one of those guys could really take you out to 3. Only Melo could. But if you have KD, Anthony Davis, and Mitchell Robinson, you know, Anthony Davis and KD can both take you out to the 3 and spread the floor. You know, that can allow for a screen and roll for Mitchell Robinson in the middle.
But do you think?
That's what I think.
But do you think they're going to put Mitch and if let's say hypothetically we get AD, they put AD and Mitch on the court at the same time? Because I would play AD more in the paint in the post, and put KD on the perimeter.
But see, I think you
eliminate an asset.
Yeah.
You can't eliminate an asset.
I think you can.
Yeah, and Freezy makes a good point because Davis, I mean, even though he could stretch the floor, it's not like he's like a 37%, 3-point shooter where you can he's never taken it with such volume. So we don't have a proof of concept in a sense to see, can Davis truly can he take 6 threes and can he make
I don't want him taking threes. I want him in the post. I want him.
So if you want him in the post, then you can't really play Mitchell Robinson then.
Right.
Unless you really see that he can hit threes like a Brook Lopez style. I don't think that's gonna happen. I mean that takes a couple of years to actually.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Perfect.
I can see Mitch coming behind.
He's not bad. I mean he's 33% from 3. Anthony Davis 33%. I mean, he would definitely be a threat that can spread the floor. Now it doesn't mean that you would play them all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that you would play him all the time, and I think you could still. Now, if you wanted to post up Anthony Davis, it could be a little bit of an issue because then where do you put Mitchell Robinson?
Right.
Well, he comes
on the floor.
I mean, what we learned in the playoffs that redundancy can come to hurt you.
Right.
If you're not,
especially when teams go small. Stop.
Yeah. And we've seen spacing really comes back to bite you.
But if you get a guy like AD, that means Mitch has got a couple more years before he'll probably be a starting center.
Nah, I think he's ready now because
I agree. But if you're going to get AD, I don't know if you put them both on the same starting line.
But Nate, dude shoots about 70% from the floor right? And limited touches. So even if his percentage goes down to 60% with volume touches, he's still an excellent scorer, excellent low post scorer.
Yeah, no,
and then he's a
putback.
And then so on the defensive end, though, I think you have a plus defense because Mitchell Robinson has that range to go from the rim to defend people on the perimeter, and you can switch guys with AD and things of that sort. Yeah. So you have an excellent defense.
If you're able to keep Mitch Robinson and get AD at the same time, I mean, you got your version of the Twin Towers for the New York.
Yeah, I mean, but see, I feel like Anthony Davis plays more of a 4 than really plays the 5, though.
Me too.
Yeah, he's more of a power forward.
You know, we've seen the proof of concept with Cousins, and I think Davis definitely played more of a 4 than a 5 today. Now,
Fizdale could play different lineups. He could do whatever he really wanted to do. He could go big, he could go small, he could go, whatever.
I mean, he'll probably do something in a mold of, what he probably wanted Gasol and Randolph to probably do that he could never really do because he got fired.
But let's be real, guys. If we're gonna get AD, Mitch Robinson's gonna go. They don't want
I'm not ready to say just that.
They don't want Knox.
Listen, I don't know. I don't know what's happening with. Listen, I don't know what's happening with this, so I don't want to speculate too much. But
I mean, if they're gonna get away a big man, they need a big man.
Well, since we're talking about some modern things now, let's just get to some Knick updates before we get out of here. I don't think there's many new updates and things that we haven't spoken about before. Nothing really going on.
Knicks want Atlanta's picks.
What'd you say?
That's not one. Come on.
What'd you say, Nate? What'd you say, Nate?
I said the Knicks possibly are interested in taking Atlanta's pick.
Nah, I think that was debunked. I think Ian Begley went ahead and debunked that they're not. Maybe the conversations have taken place, but they're not really.
I don't know, man.
They are not the only reason. Nate, the only reason they're talking about it because the Atlanta Hawks have 2 picks. This was long discussed. Way back. When the lottery hit. So. Yeah. This is not a new thing. This is just more like feeling speculation on off base. Yeah. I wouldn't read too much into that.
Think about this, Nate. Think about this, right? If the Knicks, they kind of mess up everything they might have an idea of doing if they trade down to get those 2 picks.
Mm-hmm.
One, you probably
not necessarily because there's teams that reach on players early. And
but listen. One. I think you give up on a surefire player, right? Between those top 3, you probably give up on a surefire player, and then 2, if you are considering trading for Anthony Davis, that 8th and 10th pick is not going to get it. Not in this draft. It's not.
That's definitely not good.
So it just doesn't make any sense. In my opinion, it doesn't make any sense.
I agree with you on that, but the Knicks are going to have to decide: are you going to trade this pick to get Davis, or are you going to?
Oh no, Nate, that's not a conversation. You have to trade that pick. There's no going around that. That number 3 pick is gone if you're going Anthony Davis.
If you're going for Anthony Davis, that's gone.
I don't know if they have enough to get him. If they don't want that, we don't have.
Dog, that's speculation, though, dog. What we know is fact is. Scott Perry said he is not going to trade for a guy that he can get in free agency. That's fact. That's video documented.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
he said that.
We're not getting Davis.
Right. That's what he said. That's a fact. That's what we know he said. Right. All right. So what we can assume as fact is the draft is top heavy with the top 3 guys being basically we can project them as being better than anybody that's going to be 4 through 30. Now, can we guarantee that? No. But do a lot of experts say that? Yes. Right?
Yes, and also, just to interject real quick, someone tried to do a history about, if you try to trade the number 3 pick for the number 8 and 10 picks, in previous drafts.
I seen that.
You are getting a whole bunch of mediocre players. This is like, trading Tatum for what is it, Zach Collins and someone random Frank and Leonard or whatever. Zach Collins.
No, even for Dennis Smith Jr. Dennis Smith Jr. went 8 in that draft, right?
He went 9. Frank went 8, and I think Zach Collins went 10. But exact same point, right? Okay. So it's like if they're trading Frank and Zach, no one's going to do that, right? Like your number 3 pick's going to have a lot more value than a number 8 and number 10 pick. And like for cap semantics, it just doesn't. There's it's just really just a bunch of smoke screens. It's that time of the year, so if I'm the Knicks, you got to take them.
I get what you're saying. I don't believe in Barrett. I might be the minority. I don't believe in him.
Yeah, but that's a separate issue. So you may not believe in Barrett, but there's a lot of people that don't believe in Barrett. But that doesn't mean that they're going to trade the number 3 pick because they don't believe in Barrett. They're probably going to.
But the Knicks don't have Barrett. What we're discussing is the number 3 pick itself for us to do whatever we want to do with it. The number 3 pick holds the ultimate value until draft night.
Yeah, and it holds the cap hold too.
I think the 2 options would be Davis or
I mean, but it holds
Barrett.
It holds the value because R.J. Barrett is there. I think that's the reason why it holds the value, because you're either going to get Ja Morant. Well, you have the ability to get one of those 2 players. Assuming I'm just assuming, which I think is probably a good assumption, that Zion Williamson is off the board. Then you're guaranteed one of those 2 players. I think that's what gives the 3rd pick value, where the 4th pick doesn't have as much value.
I would go same. I would say that I would pretty much go with, a 95% probability that Ja Morant's the number 2 pick. I don't see any reason.
Let me ask you a question real quick. If we would have had the number 2 pick, you think they would have took Morant over Barrett?
Yes.
Yes.
I think so.
Yes. And if anything, they would have traded it to for a Davis trade. But yes, they would have taken Morant.
I think they would have kept that.
If things happen the way they did in free agency, depending on how things in free agency turn, they would have kept it. Yeah, they would have kept it.
We desperately need a point guard.
Right.
No. We have too many point guards. They may not be good, but we have too many point guards.
But Ja Morant's going to be special. I really do believe he's going to be a special point guard.
He will be. He may be. He could be. I think he's a consensus number 2 pick. I think there's no way that Memphis is taking RJ Barrett. I don't see that happening. I think that the dominoes have fell. They found their successor to Mike Conley. So either we take RJ Barrett or someone else. Someone else does something crazy that happens, that they just like really, really impress Perry and Mills, and that's who they pick. So
let me ask you this question: What is there any situation that you see that you would be open to trading the pick down if you got maybe a player or your 1st round pick or nothing?
Nope.
None. Not in this draft. No.
Not in this draft, in my opinion.
No.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
The last thing that the Knicks can afford to do after a 17-win season and having a 33% win percentage over the last 5 years is be in a rock solid situation and move from that rock solid situation for something shaky and have it not pan out.
Yep.
That's the last thing we can have happen. The consensus is go RJ Barrett. The experts say RJ Barrett is the 3rd best player in the draft.
Yeah, no,
we select RJ Barrett. And then if he's a bust, you can always say that everybody said that this guy would be such and such, and he just didn't pan out. But we don't expect that. We expect him to be a star. So
now to go back to these stories, obviously, if you're the Knicks and whatever, you're going to do your due diligence on any single offer you could potentially get. So obviously, someone's going to discuss the 8 and 10 pick because it's there.
Hey, it could be the Cavs pick, man. The Cavs really want Barrett too.
They could. But again, what are the Cavs going to offer you that's going to really blow you out of the water?
Right.
So I heard. So the rumor on Twitter is 5, 26, and Collin Sexton.
I'd make that move.
5, 26.
They'll be real stupid to give up Collin Sexton, but if they want to do that, sure.
5, 26, and Collin Sexton for the 3rd pick.
Right.
Oh, that means someone's going to Cleveland. Who's going to Cleveland then? Or did they just say 3?
You don't have to send anybody because we're under the cap. So we can take on Collin Sexton.
We're not under the cap until
we're not under the
cap until July 1st. So
we're not under the cap until July 1st.
They probably would take Ntilikina and then Barrett.
Yeah, but then I don't get what. So really, Cleveland's gonna trade up. And
I don't think they believe in Collin Sexton. I really don't. I think they see him more as a 2 guard. They don't see him as a point guard.
So who's their point guard then?
I don't know. They need to find one.
Yeah, they would.
So basically, they'd give up on Collin Sexton.
Maybe they'll suck next year and they'll get the point guard draft will be a lot deeper.
Yeah, so I just can't see them doing that because I can't see them going into this season with no point guard again. and just giving up on the guy that they
maybe they'll
really.
shock the world and take Darius Garland at 3. I don't know.
I also
That makes no sense to do the trade then.
Right.
That you can get Garland at 5.
I'm telling you, man, there are a lot of teams that make dumb moves that push players down.
Yes, but we know this.
Y'all
Listen,
have to
Nate,
understand that.
Nate, but Nate,
football all the time.
but Nate, football is a different sport. We know this for sure.
You see it in the NBA too.
Yes, but we know this thing, right? This is what we know in the NBA. Generally, like if you look at the last 4 drafts, last 5, 6 drafts, the top 4 picks, they've generally been where they've, there hasn't been really much of a surprise in any of those 4 picks.
Right.
Somehow or some way, it's going to be Zion Williamson, John Morant, and some combination of like a Jared Culver or RJ Barrett. 3 or 4 or 4, whatever pick they are, they're going to be their top 4. Everybody else is gonna. They're gonna.
Some people have Cam Reddish ahead of Culver, man.
Cam Reddish has had surgery on this,
I'm telling you, man. Nobody knows.
Cam Reddish is not.
It only takes one team to fall in love with a player. Remember that.
Okay.
Yeah, but Nate, who reached for a top 3 pick? Who reached a 3 or 4 in NBA history?
I don't know, man. I'm just saying.
Come on, I'm telling you, Nate.
You never know. There's always the possibility.
Nate, if you're gonna argue this, Nate, if you said never say never, you gotta be telling me, okay, you gotta tell me like 5 or 6 teams that, you gotta bring some facts for me. You gotta tell me a team that actually reached for them.
You're saying a team that reached for what?
Like completely reached for a player like number 3 that nobody thought of on their draft board, or like number 4.
Detroit.
I have one too.
I'm thinking more recently, right? Like
I have one. So the reach of the decade is Anthony Bennett. He was the 11th ranked player on a lot of people's boards.
That was a
Cleveland
reach.
took him number 1, right?
Took him number
they
1.
fell in love with him for whatever reason.
That was a reach. That was a big reach.
And also too. I'm sorry, Sam, but also too. But Minnesota also reached for 2 point guards in front of Steph Curry,
and they took Johnny Flynn.
That
was a reach.
It can happen. That's my point. It can happen.
Detroit took what's his name over Melo.
Dwayne
Wade,
Darko.
all them guys.
Y'all are proving my
took
point.
Darko.
That's what I'm trying to say. It can happen.
Yeah, but I was trying not to go that far back. I was just trying to go more in the sense of Bennett's Bennett's a crazy case. That should never happen.
But those are also, I don't know about the Anthony Bennett draft, but some of those other drafts are a little bit deeper than this draft. You know what I mean?
2014, right? 2014 was what? That was Wiggins, Embiid, and or Embiid was
Noel.
Who was second pick? Jabari.
And truthfully, if y'all just look at the top 5, a lot of these were bust. They're not even in the NBA.
Yeah, but that's gonna happen in any draft, right? So that'll.
But it's happening more and more, is what I'm saying. So.
Well, that's because the players are coming. That's because the players are coming out younger and younger.
But what I'm saying is, some of these other players, you get them at 7 or 8. Look at Steph, you got him at 6 or something like that. It's just crazy how things work sometimes.
But Steph was a gem. He wasn't like an underachieving guy that slid down the board. You know what I'm saying? Nobody thought Steph was the number 1 pick. He was just a guy people thought could be good in the right system, and surprise, it turned out to work out. You know what I'm saying?
Even look at that draft.
Well, it worked out. We didn't get him for.
Yeah, but Nate, look at that draft.
For us.
If you went into that draft, right? Everybody knew Blake Griffin was the number 1 pick. Everybody knew the team to beat was going to be in the top 3, and everybody knew James Harden was either going to be 3 or 4.
Right.
That was literally if you ask anybody going into that draft, that's what their top 3 were. And then obviously Tyreek Evans was the 3rd or 4th pick. So those were consensus picks at the time. Whether they're right or wrong 5 years later is a different story. That's a whole separate issue.
Right. Okay. So now what's the scuttlebutt on Frank?
Well, the question is this,
man. I mean, there's no really hot news about him unless they trade him on the draft.
Here's the thing: if you trade him, you'll need to keep him around if you want to do the Davis trade. You need all the salaries add up. You can't do it without the salaries. And I don't think anyone's going to give you a late first-round pick for Frank at the moment. So
and here's the thing: do we even know he wants to be traded? Because I keep hearing different.
I don't even know if it's about him wanting to be traded as much as the Knicks looking to.
I mean, the Knicks are doing their due diligence to see if they could acquire any other assets, but it doesn't mean that they're going to trade him.
Yeah, but I think here's my thing, right? If they were going to acquire a first-round pick, it probably would also kind of somewhat defy the point of I think they want to fully get rid of that salary. They don't want to keep any of it, right?
I was talking about that in the last stream. That if you're gonna trade Frank, you might trade him for the 26th pick. If you trade him for the 26th pick, that you still have to pay that salary,
exactly.
Even though it's only 1 point.
So
it might be 1.6, 1.7 million. But if you're trading Frank, I think the idea is that they're clearing that $4 million off the books so that they can do whatever else with it.
I mean, look, I would say they're probably looking at offers, but I don't know. It's because there's so much smoke around it that you don't know.
I don't see any reason why the Knicks should trade Frank because what are they really getting by trading him?
You know what's for me is that when there's too much smoke around a certain deal, it usually doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's
I've
true.
seen it in history,
And I think a lot of people are afraid of Frank because of the injuries, or the fact is that his confidence is shot to hell.
I mean, whatever. That's the whole. Yeah, I mean that's the basketball reasons aside, right? Like I just don't see. I don't see an immediate. I don't see him being traded immediately. I mean, if they find a good deal, good. I mean, I don't know.
And the thing is, if we get KD and Kyrie, we're going to need guys like Frank to be on the team to play defense. His role will be more defined with those other guys in place.
I mean, you do need defenders.
Right. What? Right. Well, here's some news. The coach of the French national team says he's going to play Frank at point guard.
Yeah, I would.
Well, yeah, I mean,
he needs to play point guard, man. I don't know where else. I don't know why people try to put him not at point guard.
Well,
because
you know what I think? This is my theory of Frank this year. Remember players like, I don't know if you follow baseball, but there's been a couple situations where people just or you can have in basketball too, when you have like a growth spurt or whatever, for some reason you just bulk up too much, right? Some people between their first and second seasons, they try to, their goal is to get stronger, but then they end up getting, too big, right? And they suffer these chronic injuries that bother them in their second season.
Right.
I saw a lot with baseball pitchers, saw a lot in other sports, but I think that same thing happened to him this season where he probably bulked up too much and he was growing at the same time. He literally grew an inch and a half. And that is the reason why he suffered the initial groin injury, and then he could, it just lingered over the course of the entire season where it just, re-aggravated this and that. That's probably why, he's been as injury prone as he has. And that's probably why he's not as aggressive, because he doesn't want to re-aggravate that groin. And I think it just is a ballooning of things where he's just not sure of, not sure, but I guess once you he just probably bulked up too much in that sense. That's my theory on why
Sim,
he didn't.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
We were talking on the show last show about how the Rockets are going wholesale on their whole team, and maybe who you would like to look at as possibly maybe trading for, or maybe I don't know, just looking at. Would you consider Tucker at all?
PJ Tucker? Is PJ Tucker? Is he a free agent?
No, he out on contract.
No, you could probably trade him.
Okay, he's not a free agent this year. Well, see, my thing. I mean, I would consider PJ Tucker. For the, I don't know what his salary is. I don't know what his salary is. But my thing with Houston, I don't think they're just going wholesale to try to break the team down and start over. I don't think that's what it is. I think they're going they're not even going wholesale. I think they just said, listen, we want to make moves to make our team better. Everyone is available. So if you have something or a deal that we think is going to make us better and be able to contend for a championship, we're listening. I think it's that. I don't think they're really going wholesale.
Right now, it's not working. I mean, they're not extending D'Antoni. There's infighting between CP3 and Harden.
But I wouldn't. But Nate, I don't want to bail the Houston out. I'd rather keep him in that purgatory.
But the only problem is no one wants those contracts.
So keep them in purgatory and let them figure out their contract situation.
Yeah.
Because they should they should be giving up assets to take for us to absorb these contracts.
Right.
That's
you want somebody.
If I'm the Knicks, I'd give a second-round pick for PJ Tucker.
No. I'm saying they need to give us something in addition to that contract. We're trying to give
right. So you may admit. So this is what I heard on Twitter. So the Houston Rockets will give the Knicks Chris Paul and 3 first-round picks for the number 3 pick. For the Knicks No. Listen,
Go ahead.
I'm not saying take the deal. What I'm saying is it goes to the point that you just made that the Houston Rockets have to give up something in order for us to bail them out. Now, I wouldn't do the deal because Sim called me a wankster last year for me saying tank for RJ Barrett. I said on this show last year, tank for RJ Barrett, and Sim called me a wankster. To my face, too, by the way, not even in the chat.
Freezy, you know my problem is, Freezy? This is my problem. Like the picks that we would ask for, right? When do we realistically think Harden is gonna, go on a full-out decline? He's right now these
5
picks
years. 5 years.
They'll probably take like 5 years, right?
Yeah, and the Rockets are still going to be good. So those picks are low.
So those picks will just probably be like. That's my problem with those picks, right? And then you got to deal with CP3's like $40 million contract. I'm like, man, it's like that's a terrible contract.
Picks. I mean, Dallas could very well be good next year if KP gets his head right and Doc
but that's again.
Well. I mean, those could be low picks again.
Yeah, I think Houston's picks are probably not like. I don't know. I might need like 4 picks though. I might literally need like pick swaps and like more picks from them.
That's what they offered for Jimmy Butler too, though. Remember the Jimmy Butler offer from Houston?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I look. I would rather see him let him try to do a deal with LA.
I think
send CP3 to Lakers to take.
They finally get CP3.
You know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. I just can't. The way CP3 is so fiery, I don't know what LeBron is like in the locker room or whatever. Maybe LeBron takes a leadership-wise, I'm not saying on the floor, but leadership-wise, maybe he'll take a back seat to CP3 leadership-wise. I don't know. I will say this.
The only value is to reunite the banana boat, right?
I mean, they would probably work well together, though, because LeBron plays the game the right way. Right. So they would probably work well together.
And CP3 wants to win or finish on a good note.
Yeah, but their issue is not that. Like it's more the fact that what's LeBron's health going to be like going forward, and does he actually care about winning now? Right. I mean, we don't know this. Like I think he's comfortable in LA, in my opinion. I think once CP3 goes back to LA, I think he's gonna become comfortable too. I mean, they're chilling right now in the summer. All of them.
Oh, CP3. I mean, his career is almost coming to an end.
CP3, I don't trust CP3. CP3 is hobbled for the most part.
CP3 has 3 years left on his contract. That takes it all the way until 2022, where he's gonna get $44 million in that last year of the contract. That's a lot of money. So we got somebody new in the chat. What's good, my man? AC, what's poppin', man?
What's going on, Sam? How y'all fellas doing?
I'm good, man. Doing pretty good, man.
Hey, man. Man, did I miss the Knicks trade talks?
We're just kind of doing some update stuff. It's not a whole lot going on with the Knicks right now, so we're just kind of updating. We finished up. For about an hour, we talked about Ron Artest, in the documentary that came out, and then we went in and we did some Knicks memories, and now we're doing some updates for the next 10 minutes, and then, about 2 o'clock, I'm out of here.
All right, let me break the chat right quick. I know everybody gonna get mad. Let me break the chat right quick. All right, we ready? I'm looking at the screen. All right.
Bring it on, man. Bring it on.
The New York Knicks will not win the championship with Kyrie, Kevin Durant, and if they draft for Anthony Davis. They will not win. And you know why I know they won't win? Because I got history on my side, man. Freezy said it himself. After the Knicks in '99, Ewing went down. That's when they should have broke the team right then and built it up from the ground. Right. No team in the history of NBA has done what the Knicks is trying to do. I mean, we a 17-win team. All right, we ain't win the championship at least we ain't been in the playoffs in 10 years. Ain't win a ring in 45 years. We got a new front office, a new coach, all right? And really, come on, does anybody know where Fizdale going to be running next year? We don't know what kind of defense is going to play.
you ain't gonna know till you don't know what he's gonna have a brand new team next year. So whatever the system is gonna be.
He's watching the finals. I'm telling you.
That's what I'm saying. You look at that, Kevin Durant saying, "Okay, I want to come and be with the Knicks." I understand the whole thing about the legacy and all that, but what I'm saying is, every formidable team in the NBA right now has drafted a player, turned that player into an all-star, put players around them. They move that, keep it going until they can't go no more. Then they might make a trade for an all-star, something like that. The Knicks never done that. We had Tracy McGrady, Penny Hardaway. We had Antonio McDyess, Glenn Rice, Steve Francis. We've been doing this for 20 years. But that's what I'm saying. But if you win, if you get Kevin Durant, you talking about a 3 to 4 year window. We got to win. We got to build a new team. We got to get veterans around them. We got to get an offense in 3 to 4 years. It ain't easy to win a championship.
The only one that was close, and it's not fully analogous because Boston had Pierce, but they kind of built the rest of the team.
Yeah, but with Boston, they had Pierce. And they built around
Pierce was the homegrown guy.
When he got,
and Rondo.
1 year Rondo. Yes,
but that was their own team. That's what I'm saying. No team.
I definitely agree with you there, because even with Miami, Dwayne Wade was the homegrown guy.
He was there. That's right.
He's the homegrown guy.
You gotta have a homegrown. Look what the Dallas is doing. They tried it with DSJ. They got Luka. They like, okay, that's our man. They come in, they're going to build around him. They got KP. You hear them talking about getting Capella. I mean, that's how you play. That's how you build a championship team. Every team in the NBA has done it. The Spurs, they turned Kawhi into a star. What pick was Kawhi? What was like? What?
He was 15.
15.
Yeah,
one of them. Yeah, 15. Well, it don't work. We got to, if we're going to get Barrett, let's get Barrett. Because think about it like this. Let's play hindsight for a quick second. All right. KP, we drafted KP at 4. Let's just say he wanted to stay with the Knicks. All right. He wanted to stay with the Knicks. He loved the Knicks. So now we got KP coming back in. Everything else that the Knicks did was great. Now we would have had KP, Mitchell Robinson, Kevin Knox. We could have drafted for Barrett this year. Then we'd have still had enough money to get a free agent if we wanted to bring in a Kyrie or Kemba, whoever. Now look at your 5. And those 4 young players, they can grow together. If we do what the Knicks are talking about doing, or everybody talking about them trades now, you got a 3 to 4 year window. You got an injury-prone Kyrie and an injury-prone Davis.
But see, I get what you're saying, but it wasn't. I mean, it was KP that wanted out, right? So when KP wanted out, I think they did the right thing by freeing up. Now you just open to be able to do whatever.
Yeah, I'm not saying. I'm not saying the Knicks was wrong. I'm not saying the Knicks was wrong. I'm just saying if they'd had that, if KP was staying, you would have that star to build around. And the Knicks did everything right in that regard.
And to play devil's advocate, I mean, you have a 20-year-old, you have a 19-year-old, and you possibly might be drafting an 18-year-old or 19-year-old. So you're going to have the potential to land one of those homegrown players and build a team around.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, some of it takes luck too. I think there's a lot
of it takes luck. That's my point. I mean, you got 3 years.
You have to understand when to give up on certain players too. So, sometimes it's almost like a continuous cycle where you just, you have some players, you see if they actually fit, and if they don't actually fit, you trade them away, get another guy in their system, see if they fit, and go from there.
That's my point. If you got the young guys, you got years. You talking about 6 years, 5, 6 years. Most NBA players don't really come into their own until that time. So you'll be able to see if Kevin Knox is going to be a star. You'll be able to see if Barrett or whoever, KP, he might not. I'm not saying they're the ones that's going to take you to a ring, but I'm saying at least you got the youth on your side. And then if they don't work out, you move.
You technically only got like 3 years for most draft picks because, you got your first 2 seasons, then the third season, if they're not good after the second season, they're going to decline that option for the fourth season.
That's right.
So you become a free agent.
And two, not to cut you off, but the CBA complicates your theory. Yeah. If not for the CBA, what you say is correct. the CBA prevents any NBA team from having 2 max extensions from a rookie on one team.
Exactly.
And that's the reason why the Boston Celtics don't have Anthony Davis today.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
So it's not 2 max. It's actually 2. It's called a Derrick Rose max. So Kyrie at the time was signed to a Derrick Rose max.
Right.
It was like a percentage of the cap. So you can sign up to 5-year contracts because actually Towns and Wiggins are both 5-year contracts. But it's a question of someone's on a Derrick Rose max deal, which is like the 5-year X percentage of cap. But again, that hinders you too, right? So you got to
form. That's the reason why they have to wait until July 1st. But what Ace is saying though is in 6 years, the guys that you drafted 6 years ago would be developed. But the thing is, though, at the end of the 4th year, you have to make a decision who's going to be our franchise guy and who's going to be the guy that we have to trade and get other assets for.
Right.
Yep. That's the decision there. Third or fourth year, you got to decide to keep them.
And here's the beautiful thing is that, like, if we get our free agents, we can still keep our young guys. You know, and either develop them into long-time players or trade them.
Listen, if you only go over 2 maxes this summer, then all the young guys can technically stay.
Right. You can get 2 maxes and everybody stay.
You have two solid, really good veterans, and you have a bunch of young players. I'm okay with that.
But you know the thing is this, right? This whole idea of keeping young players, there's been it's not like, that's not a thing that only like a minority of fans actually believe in. That's been this idea of trying to develop our young players not new. I know people have been talking about this since.
I don't understand how.
I just feel like this though. Those 2 max contracts is going to depend on who gets those max contracts, or they may not even be max contracts, because if you give one to Kevin Durant, it changes. It has to change your outlook, because he's not coming to play with a bunch of 18 and 19-year-olds.
Hey, he's not winning 20 games. You
know what I'm saying?
I don't think he's coming anyway. I don't believe he's coming anyway. But
so that changes your outlook. Now, if it's somebody that's a little bit younger, if it happens through trade or if it happens through whatever, you absorb someone's contract because you got because you have the space to do so. And that person is a little bit younger, then it's a little bit different. You say, okay, well, this guy's young. We still got a couple years before he reaches his prime. RJ Barrett, Kevin Knox, whomever, they can grow up with him too. That changes. But when you get someone that's like 30, 31 years old, you get 2 of those guys.
But that's why
your approach is going to be different.
A lot of free agents like that.
That's why we have players like Dotson, Trier, Ntilikina.
They're still kind of young.
But Nate, the problem with those players?
Dotson's not young. Dotson's 25, man.
Yeah, but they're young in the league, though. Young in the league.
They can get us vets.
We have to exercise caution with some of our players too, because just because we have these quote unquote young players, it doesn't actually mean that they're actually going to be like positive assets on winning teams, because. A lot of what we evaluated, we evaluated on teams that have only won like 25 or 17 games. It's like these players have only won a combined like 40 games in their first 2 seasons, right?
Yeah, but
so we don't really
players like shooters or guys, rugged rebounders. We're not talking about hardcore, veteran players. We're talking.
Yeah, but we also don't know if these kids can translate on. Once the expectations go, okay, we need to. We're not winning 17 games anymore. We got to win now. 57 games, right? Can all these players actually, be part of a team that can win 57 games?
Can they play at that level? But Freezy, like you say, Damian Dotson is 25, but he's young in the league. He's 25, but he's young to the league. I just feel like if you get players like Kevin Durant that's that age, they're not coming to play with. You got to get some vets that's gonna play with them.
Exactly. And you have young assets.
So
there will be a room for guys like
it changes.
There's gonna be room for guys like them, because you have guys like look at the Raptors. You got like Fred VanVleet. You got Siakam. You know, there's going to be room
Siakam
for
25.
Norman
Right. I
Powell,
mean,
26.
there's definitely room for those guys, but
Yeah.
you got to have some guys. I mean, look what they did. They got Danny Green. They got Marc Gasol, right?
Yes.
They got some guys that's grizzled and
Ibaka,
been through the fire a
okay.
little bit. You know what I'm saying? And done some things. That would be the same thing. So if you get a Kevin Durant, it changes your outlook on having a whole team of young guys.
Sure, you're in a win now mode.
You know,
because
so
you're coming here to win.
it's gonna change your outlook.
But guys, you gotta think about something for a minute though. You gotta think about in the mindset, the psyche of a Kevin Durant to come to the Knicks in the first place. That's what I'm saying. I don't think he's coming, but like you said, if he's 33 but he's 30 years old, right?
He's 30. He's gonna be 31.
He's 30
yeah.
years old.
Yeah.
If he's saying, okay, I want to go to the New York Knicks, he's got to have some kind of psyche in his mind saying that we ain't going to win now. Because we ain't win in 17 and 45 years.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think.
You know what it is? The only reason Kyrie comes is that the only reason KD comes is he knows somebody else is going to come.
Exactly.
And that's the only reason.
Even with somebody else coming, like I said, winning a championship in 3 years, and even in the East, with no team, with no system, with no defensive philosophy, how in your mind could you say, okay, I'm going to go to New York, I want to establish my legacy, I want to, fix that, I want to fix New York. You got to have, in his mind, he's got to be saying, we ain't going to win next year. We ain't going to win next year.
I don't think he would be coming thinking he's going to win in 2020. But hold up. I don't think he's coming thinking that he's going to win in 2020, but he's not coming to play with 18 and 19-year-olds either.
Right. I get that, but I'm saying if he get Kyrie, I mean, Kevin Durant left Russell and he left Harden to go to play with Golden State. Mm-hmm. He looked at Golden State. He was like, look, I like the way them boys is playing. I can see the way they playing.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can fit there. We don't have that here.
Yeah,
no, we don't have that. Of course not.
See that.
Hold on.
So
of course not. But
don't put Harden in there because Harden was traded. That's a separate issue.
Right.
You're right. He left a team that was in the finals, that he was ahead of, that was in the finals, went to a team that beat him, to join that team. So now we saying, okay, he gonna leave that. He want to build. He want to do his legacy. Right. We get all that.
And
but
that's
there's
his
so
psyche.
many other teams. There's so many other teams. He's from the DC area. I would go with John Wall and beat him.
He's not coming. He's not coming. I live in DC. He's not coming back. He's not coming back to DC.
They don't have
you know what I'm saying? He's not coming back to DC. He don't want to be here.
My point is he's got to have some sign of tolerance that, look, we ain't gonna win quick. And my thing is, when you get a Kevin Durant who's 30 years old, you got a 3 to 4 year window.
True.
It's going to be just like Larry Johnson.
I agree.
Because injuries going to start setting in. We're going to have Kyrie's injury prone. You're going to have injuries. And it's tough to win a championship. Everything got to happen. You got to have luck.
It is.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm like, I don't think he's going to come. But, I'll be glad if he did. But
I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, of course.
We'll see. We'll see where his mindset is, especially after this. After Golden State, whatever happens in the finals, we're gonna see what his mindset is. My biggest fear about him coming is that it's like a LeBron thing, that he comes and he's like preparing for retirement. That's my biggest fear with him coming.
That's where all the superstars go to die. New York Knicks.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's my biggest fear, is that he comes and he's just like settled and he's like, okay, I'm here because when I'm done, I'm ready to run my business and do this and do that. That's my biggest fear when I'm coming here.
KD's got a lot to prove. LeBron had nothing to prove when he went to LA.
I mean that's true. I don't know if he has a lot to prove. He has something he might want to prove, but he does have 2 rings already.
He got 2 rings.
He wants to win a ring with a team on his own team. He doesn't want to. He don't want to be a part of a super team.
Right. He wants to win with his own team and his legacy and everything. But I just get afraid that
That's
I
what
don't want him. I don't want him to come to New York, and it's like, okay, yeah, like I'm here, and now I'm preparing for the next stage of my life. You know what I'm saying? That's what I fear.
That's what happens.
It's like you said too, Sim. How they pitch him is going to matter. Are we pitching him on?
Of course.
Are we pitching him on winning the chip? Or are we pitching him on what he can do in New York?
I mean, what do you pitch to him? How could you? What do you pitch?
It's your team.
It's
your
straight
team.
legacy.
Your team is what? It got to be. It got to be legacy.
Straight legacy.
You can't talk X's and O's to him. You can't talk X's and O's.
Why did LeBron go home?
Be legacy.
In 2014, why did LeBron go home? It's all legacy, right?
Legacy.
It's got to be legacy.
No. Well, listen, fellas. I'm about to end this here because it's 2:11 in the morning. I got to get up early, get my daughter to her SAT. She got SAT test tomorrow.
Wow.
Yeah. So I got to get up early and get her to the test. Yeah. She's sleeping now, getting the rest. But I appreciate you guys for coming on. Yeah, if you get a chance, man, please make sure you check out that Ron Artest documentary. It's really good. Really, really good. And I'll
so
be
you
back.
gonna give us a last word before we dip? Can we get a last word?
Everybody gonna get a last word before you dip out of here. I'm gonna be back on Monday. And go ahead, Vic. We can start with you.
Yeah, I mean, this was a fun show. Hopefully, I'll try to catch a stream on Monday. But yeah. Otherwise, this is speculation season. This is the time of the year where things come up like crazy. So don't read the rumors too much. Because this is rumor season. And don't fall for those workout videos because it's that time of the year too. Everybody posting a workout video. Everybody looking. Everybody trying to gloss up their Instagram photos, making them look a lot more buffer than they are. This is
right.
None of this matters. The off season, all those workouts, they don't matter.
Yeah.
Because if you can't do it in the regular season, you can't do it in the postseason. Then
That's it. That's it.
Right.
All right, man. All right. Appreciate it. All right,
Viv. Man.
All right. Freezy.
Hey, so last word is this. Hey, support the show. The show is dope. Share it with your friends, man. Knicks fans everywhere. Y'all come in here to have your voices be heard. So we can chop it up, virtual style, just like if we were all at MSG together.
That's right.
I'm out of here, man. Sim, as usual, man, it's been a pleasure. Hey, chat, peace to the chat and everybody, man, and I'll holler at y'all Monday.
I appreciate you, Freezy.
Yes, sir.
All right, later, man.
All right.
Let me see who we got. Ace?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
hey, man. Appreciate y'all, what y'all doing, man. I remember I was at the opening night last year with y'all. And I'm telling you, man, it's off the chain. I think you're doing it again this year, right?
Yep. Trying to do it again this year.
Rather?
Yeah. For the upcoming season. So we're doing people, doing down payments now.
Okay.
Yeah, we're trying to, so we try to get that thing done early.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm just stay with this, man. Love everything Knicks, and listen, man, we got to build this thing the right way. That's the only thing I can say. I've seen it. I'm 45 years old, and I've seen it. I don't even want to win one and then be irrelevant for the next 40 years. Let's do the thing the right way, and let's get back in this thing.
I feel
all right,
you,
man. Peace out.
Appreciate you, bro.
All right, man.
All right, later.
All right, later.
And Nate.
Hey, man, message to the Knick brass. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. It's already round. It already goes. Just keep it simple. Make the right moves. I mean, like everybody says, we're in a good position throughout whatever direction we go. We go young. We draft players. We sign max free agents. There's just so many ways we can go in this off season. So just don't overthink it. And the thing is, Sim, I just want to win, man.
Yeah.
I'm tired of losing, man. I'm tired of losing. I'm a Lions fan, so losing is pretty pertinent in my other team. I want to win, and if we have to gut this team to get veterans to win, to become relevant in the playoffs, to have better memories, make new memories, then let's do it. You know, I just want to win, man. I cannot go another year with us winning 17 to 20 games and sucking all season. I just can't do it. I want to win. So,
all right, man.
No,
well, I think that's the goal. That's the goal. That's the goal of the front office this off season is to put together a winner. So we'll see what's going to happen.
That's why we're paying them these big bucks, man. So
That's it.
Get it done.
That's it. All right, man. All right, have a good weekend, man. Peace.
Have a good weekend. Bye.
Peace. And before I get out of here, let me give a big shout out to my man Monty Knicks. You know what I mean? I didn't forget about you, Monty. I didn't forget about you. Monty Knicks got the last word tonight. He said, so if KD, Kyrie, and AD don't work, will y'all start listening to me? Then he says, KD and Kyrie, they are not winners like Kawhi. Well, Marty, we're gonna see what's happening. Now, if let's just say we do get them and we start winning. What I mean, are you going to, say I was wrong? I'm not saying it. Listen, I'm happy if we don't get KD and we build with the young guys. I'm happy for that. I'm cool with it. You know what I mean? So we're gonna see what's gonna happen. But anyway, I'm out. I'm out of here. I thank you guys for joining me. You know what I mean? I think I enjoy talking about Ron Artest in the documentary, and having a reaction to it. Look forward to seeing more, Nick moments that you enjoyed, I enjoyed, we all enjoyed. Look forward to it. Make sure that you go to my website if you are interested in opening night tickets. You can put a deposit down right now. The website, I just put it in the chat. Make sure you go there, put your deposit down before they're all gone. People are already putting their deposits down. So go ahead and do that. Again, I appreciate you guys for staying up with me and talking New York Knicks. I will see you guys on Monday. And, you know what? I didn't get a chance to say anything to Big Freezy, but if you get a chance, go over to the front stoop. Big Freezy said Big Daddy Kane was whack. He said Big Daddy Kane was whack. Threw everybody in the chat for a loop, man. But anyway, I'm out. Thank you guys again for staying up with me. Have a great weekend. Peace.